winner's side bracket, we have the two fantastic Goth Boy Clique and Ignitus Esports. Both these guys coming in and gonna be giving us a show tonight.
Yeah, and should be a pretty good matchup. Both these teams finished 6-1 in series in their respective groups. I believe Ignitus was second, and Gothboy Click ended first in theirs, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, team that ends up losing tonight does not go home. We have a bit of a double elimination bracket going on, so it's just kind of coming out showing who deserves to be in that upper echelon and gets that extra chance going forward into the next round, and who has to play for their lives down in the lower bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whoever wins this one will go on to face the winner of Honeyfruit Gaming and University of Connecticut B, whereas the loser will actually be bumped down into the modified lower bracket where they'll play the winner, I believe, of Omega Gaming Ice and Wolfpack Exiled. But we don't have too much time to talk because, again, these teams are raring to go and getting into that champ select hopefully soon. Do you have any thoughts about what we'll see? Because again, things like that, the new have been hitting the rift a lot, but so as well as, some modified changes to a lot of the champions.
Yeah, we did just get a patch earlier this week with some pretty significant changes for a couple of champions. Varus and Ezreal both saw nerfs down in the bottom lane. Varus is a bit more impactful than Ezreal's. Ezreal just ate a cooldown nerf on his E, so just, you just can't be E'ing in all willy-nilly anymore. You got to make sure that you use it correctly. But Varus got almost gutted. Like, they took a bunch of damage off of his main skill early in lane on his E, which is what generally you end up starting, and ate some other stuff as well. And Karthus got buffed back up with his movement speed, and they did try to nerf the damage down a little bit on the Q, but it ends up being probably better overall for Karthus, actually. Some other things, Wukong, Volibear ate a little nerf, and Sejuani got buffed a little bit. So all these things we could end up seeing here tonight. But another thing is we do have some subs in, at least for game one. It looks like, at least according to what the starting rosters and what the rosters generally are, for the side of the Gothboy Clique, they have the meta in instead of Daily Peach, who is normally their jungler and generally is the hard carry, playing the things like the Diana jungle, coming in and putting up some impressive score lines. So we'll have to see how that changes their draft and their play style as we are going on in here into the draft. And I talked a little bit too long, so if you want to catch people up, go for it.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it is interesting though with that whenever you have those subs and how it affects your place on who you are going to try and work with. Again, we do have the pick phase underway. The bands go as such: Graves, Cassiopeia, and Twisted Fate taken off the side of Goth Boy Click, whereas it very sorry. Ignitus Esports have been away the Lysandra, Ezreal, and Aphelios, Volibear, Ashe, and Zillion. Well, Zillion potentially coming out for Goth Boy Click in the first round picks, whereas Jackson Caitlyn over for Ignitus Esports. Again, fairly standard champions across the board. Nothing too completely crazy, I should say.
Yeah, and one of the nerfs, talking about Volibear before, the heal on his Frenzy Maul, his new W, basically they just reduced the heal you get on jungle monsters by half. So Ryan obviously wasn't too happy with how healthily Volibear was able to come out of the jungle at essentially full health and still have all his tools to gank. So if that is top lane, Volibear shouldn't affect it too much. But, Volibear has been seeing more and more play in the jungle and even a little bit of support here and there, I've been seeing at least. So we'll see exactly where the Volibear goes, and where that Zillion goes. You tend to think it's mid lane, but Zillion can still find his way into support too.
Yeah, absolutely. Hecarim locked in last for Ignitus Esports, and so they furiously start banning out some of those junglers. Again, Volibear can be flexed, but many have assumed he is going to that jungle side. So we will have to see what they pick up here. Victor banned away. Looks like Gothboy Click aren't afraid to ban out any of those priority mid laners. Make sure Aethys is not going to have that opportunity to hard carry on some certain champions.
Yeah, and looking through back at Ignitus's previous games, whenever Aethys gets Victor, things generally go really well for them. He ends up going like 8-1, million CS, doing a bunch of damage, so it makes sense to take that away. And they banned a bunch of junglers, so maybe they're just trying to force Volibear into that jungle role since they picked Jax so early. Just saying, hey, we're going to force you to play Volibear, ban out the Olaf, ban out the Kindred, make you do that. But there is Kayn, so another jungler pick, which means it will be Volibear in the Jax. But Lulu on the other side from Ignitus could make things a little rough on Kayn, depending on how snowbally he gets.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, when you think about the Lulu, of course, it can be played mid and support role both. So they will have their pick of the litter. Very nice flex pick there. And Talia being hovered here. Hamlet deciding that he wants to try and dance it. And no, goes for
Oh,
the Veigar. So
okay.
blind picking Veigar or assuming that it's going to be Yordle on Yordle action in that mid lane.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see Lulu mid into Veigar. Lulu does have decent enough range, but I believe that she would still be in Event Horizon range pretty much at all points if it is. But hovering the Orianna, which definitely makes sense to pair with something like the Hecarim, who can dive in and be that ball delivery system for an Orianna pickup. And then just allowing Lulu to protect whoever Kayn or Volibear get into to try and dive. And so, unless this is like Zillion top Volibear support, it looks like we have an Ash Zillion bottom lane.
Yeah, very safe, very solid to decide to, play a little bit passive, try and play for the team a little bit. However, that oppressive bomb making from Zillion can make it rough for the Caitlyn and the Lulu. We'll have to see how that works, though. But Orianna being locked in here now, I do want to get your opinion. I tend to ask everyone about this because I think it's one of my favorite things. Orianna has always been seen as kind of that blind pick, safe pick that you don't really save for the last round and as a counter pick to any other mid laner. If do you agree with that sentiment, or do you think it's worthy of the counter pick? You think it's strong enough in a certain aspect that it overpowers the enemy?
I mean, I think it's strong enough in the sense that, Orianna is almost never a bad choice. I would like teams to be a little bit more aggressive with their red side counter picks for sure. Zed just got buffs too. His shadows got buffed to season 3 missile speed. So a lot of people have been playing him in solo queue and having a lot of fun with that. And Zed doesn't scale particularly well or anything, but he could make Veigar's life really hard for the first, 20, 25, 30 minutes of a game. So it just kind of comes down to style. Definitely you would like to see something a little spicier than an Orianna last pick on red side, but it's not the worst thing ever.
Absolutely true. And so again, we'll have to see that Veigar versus the Orianna in that mid lane. And so we'll get to see what that does. Now, the question is in that top lane. Of course, the Volibear was blind picked in the first round. We always see it being used to that extent. Hey, listen, we can flex it wherever we want to. This time it's in the top lane. And so the Jax came out as a counter pick. Do you like this matchup for the Jax, or do you think the Volibear is going to get the better of the trade?
I think Jax will end up outscaling Volibear unless the Kayn is just sitting up in the top lane for literally the entirety of the game. Well, at least the early game, to make sure that this Volibear gets going and keeps Jax down. Because the thing about Volibear is, even after he got some more buffs from when he first got reworked and was just absolutely not a good champion, is he still doesn't have the best base tanky stats. Like, he doesn't have a ton of base HP. His resistances are, somewhat okay. His base AD's okay. So, like, building Trinity Force on him's all right. He's not, like, crazy the best Sheen user, So Jax definitely will outscale Volibear at some point. So it kind of comes down to what you can accomplish before Jax hits critical mass.
All right, we'll have to see how that one plays out, of course. And, it's always fun to watch two snowballs go at it. Very interesting to see. In that jungle side, though, Kayn has definitely been seeing a rise in play. Again, having those two form shifts. Now, against the Hecarim, do you see this being a complication, as Hecarim does like to roam and try and fight a little bit early and possibly force some ganks in the jungle? Do you think the Kayn's going to have some issues, or do you think it's going to be fairly standard?
I think fighting into Kayn definitely will help the Kayn a little bit, at least in terms of getting the transformation early. That's something that you see. Like, even TSM tried to play Kayn earlier this split, and Spica transformed like 2 minutes before the game ended. Not what you want to see out of a Kayn pick. You want to be fighting early and often. And you even see people like Karasmai, who's a Kayn OTP streamer, building Tiamat, just that way when they do get the fights that they need, they have that Tiamat just for that extra damage, and they can proc the active just to get those extra orbs to transform earlier. So fighting early makes the Kayn transform quicker, and if he's trying to go for red Kayn just to keep disruption available, that's exactly what he wants, is to try and fight early and often.
All right, and last question, kind of posed to you as we do get into the spectator delay here. Looking at the rest of the draft and now taking a look at these teams overall, I mean, we have what seems to be a fairly standard composition on both sides. Oriana, Caitlyn, Hecarim, rounding out, the core strengths, I feel, of the side of Ignitus Esports. And on the flip side, you have the Follow Bear, Kane, and Ash being those standard with the Veigar and Zillion being thrown in. Do you see the win conditions favoring either side, or do you think both of them are pretty fairly stacked in their own regard, and it's going to come more down into how the macro is played in skill matchups?
I definitely think that it's definitely going to come down to the macro, down to who gains the advantages during the laning phase. Because when you look at it, just like at what each team comp's trying to do, Ignitus team comp has to kind of run in to the Goth Boy Clique, and they have a Veigar. The Event Horizon makes that really hard. They also have zillion bombs that you're going to have to dodge. They have Ash slows. If Kane goes red, they have knockups, and they have everything Volibear can do. So it can be really hard for the side of Ignitus to actually get in outside of the big Wombo combo. Like, if they get the Wombo combo Shockwave down, but a good Event Horizon stops any follow-up, then they have a chance to regroup and try to fight on their terms after the fact, or just back away if the Shockwave does enough damage. So it's going to come down to execution.
All right, we'll have to see how that one plays out. Again, though, we are going to go to a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we get back, we will have the first game between Goth Boy Clique and Ignitus Esports for you on the Rift. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Started with a vision of quality, a vision of uniformity.
We took the time to create something familiar yet refreshing, something with a bit of change.
Designed to fit any brand's unique vision.
Just walk right out the door. Don't wanna do this anymore. Now I'm lost without you. You drive me crazy out my mind. How'd you do this every time? Now I'm lost without you. Used to be the one I talk to when I'm sad. Can't you see now tainted love is all we have? Our issues run so deep, now when I try to sleep I feel so bad. I should leave and by the time it's done I'll be gone. So distant when you're home. Oh, can you? Are they taunting us?
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned.
And which side you're playing on the Rift, of course, but he will be harassing Xinkao, who already has to use, I believe, the potion that he had in his pocket.
Yeah, and that is something to keep an eye on is, when you have an actual, like, mage as a support, the Zillions, the Brands, the Vel'Kozes against an enchanter like Lulu, Lulu doesn't heal. She's not Soraka's. Nahor's taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, it takes quite a bit of a combo and a nice little skill shot there. Xinkao throws down the trap to get off a very clean Caitlyn combo.
Yeah, but back to the point is, if you don't shield the actual damage coming out from the mage support, the shield after the fact doesn't really help out. You're not healing. You don't get the health back. So you really just got to make sure you're paying attention if you are Wizard of Diablo. And so far, doing fine. Caitlyn's sitting at about half health, but so is Knight of the Zed on the Ashe. So all in all, things going just fine down here in the bottom lane.
Yep, very quiet overall, and the meta has finally started clearing out his Krugs. So we've yet to see the first gank of the game too. So both junglers semi-opted into that pure full clear. Both of them have actually gone back, got their own items. We do see a little bit of a transition. Our Shin'Namen on that top side takes a lot of damage, but going over it, Skirmisher Saber for the meta and the Bomby Cinder actually for Peanut. So opting for a little bit of a difference there in itemization choices.
Yeah, it's a little interesting. Generally, you see Hecarims that try to complete the Infinity, or not the Infinity Edge, but the Trinity Force rather first, as Peanut steals the big Raptor. Generally, they go back and buy Sheen as their first item instead of the Bomby Cinder. So It must just be a read on the game, like, hey, Kane's not doing anything, so I don't need to do anything, so I can just go the Bomby Cinder just to clear even that bit faster. Just sit there and burn down the jungle camps. I feel like if it was more of an early game kind of jungler that he was playing Hecarim into, he probably would be going that Sheen first, just for that bit of damage. But I don't think Kane actually has any orbs towards transformation yet, which isn't like abnormal at this point in the game, especially considering the lanes that they are working with. But definitely something as a Kane player that you definitely want to focus on is getting your transformation as early as possible.
Yeah, the earlier you get it, the better. Again, you gain so much from that. In this game, I mean, his options are pretty versatile. You have the top lane, which it looks like the meta is actually chasing here. That is going to be a chase in and a jump out for Shanaman. So going to be staying safe right there. Nahor actually throws down a double bomb, lands onto Wizard. So he's going to take some poke too. So finally, Shin, Cal, and Wizard are able to get a hard push in this bottom lane. Get up a little bit in the CS lead, as well as almost take a tower plate.
Yep, pretty close. One more wave should do it, seeing as how low Knight of the Zed actually is. They should be able to shove this wave in. And even if they're sitting there, should be able to get that next plate, especially since Kane was spotted. They know he's not going to be down there waiting for him. So should be able to get a plate off and back with enough gold for a BF sword, if that is what Shinkai wants. But they're just going to let the minions alone, I guess, and get the BF sword anyway, try to get a quick back off.
Yep. Gonna be able to get the backs, and again, both bot lanes are backing up at the same time. Looks to be an approximate 8 CS difference, or about 7 CS difference between the two ADCs. So BF sword coming out, and actually Boots instead coming out. So Boots and double longsword versus a BF dagger and Boots. So drastically different. Oh, okay. So Sold Out said
change his mind.
Someone pinged him. Someone pinged him and said, "No, get the cutlass. That's what we have to get right now."
Yeah, so not going the Murmana Ash, because if you do that, you definitely want that get the Manamune as quick as possible and start stacking that up, because, you know, ADCs not named Ezreal generally have a hard time stacking it up when it's not the full Manamune. And the meta didn't get caught there.
Yeah, he actually goes over the wall, gets a nice little catch. Damage is done, and the chase going in on Aethys. First ultimate is there, flash forward both from the mid laners, and the run in from Peanut secures that kill, and now the ultimate comes out as well. The Rampage might secure a second double kill for the Centaur of the Shadow Isles, and that just might be a dragon as well. Well played by Ignitus Esports.
Yeah, and even the ace in the hole coming out to force Nahor back off the dragon. And yeah, and that's kind of the thing with Kane is, you know, early game you want to fight, and even though he has a 90% slow on his W now, you're not super almighty powerful pre-transformed. You know, you're not an Olaf or a Lee Sin or even a Hecarim who came in and just did so much damage in combination with the Shockwave that, you know, fighting early is both a blessing and a curse sometimes for a Kane pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you fall after initiating that fight, it has to feel bad. Again, Hamlet didn't seem to be in the route there, but we do see a fight in the top side. Stormbringer dropping that damage in Shinaman, trying to flash away, able to get himself to safety. But again, losing that flash and the meta, even though he died once, he is looking to try and lay down that pressure.
Yeah, and you can't just abandon ship on your quest to transform as the Kane. That's paramount to playing this champion. So definitely good on him to try and keep the pressure of just recognizing, hey, I just stepped up that little bit too far. Just need to temper it back just a little bit, because, you know, if he was really super desperate, he might have flashed after Shinaman and continued to try and hit him. But obviously taking that flash when your top laner's up 30 CS is just fine and dandy.
Yeah, always nice to have meta. Now looking towards that mid lane, and Hecarim showing on the side to get the baby cage down, but meta has to chase away now. And unfortunately, again, all of these fights by Goth Boy Clique are getting shut down. Hecarim matching meta everywhere it goes.
Yeah, and that's what it's one of the things to do against something like a Kane, where you know he's going to be looking for fights and looking for ganks, is just turn on your counter ganking side of your brain and figure out where he's going and just be there just to, whenever he shows his face, you know, just be that disapproving parent in the corner when you show up late past your curfew, you know, and just make him feel bad. Like, no, 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 no. You know what you did.
Yeah, you know what you did, and you have paid already once. Do you really want to get spanked again? And it's kind of the thought process there. Yoshishi in the top lane might get visited by the horse, so bear on horse action. We'll see who wins. Seems like Pina is, as again, these junglers are definitely trying to find these routes, but it's only when they find each other that they are having a fight ensue. So again, lanes go back to quiet as a top lane gets a little bit of love.
Yeah, and Cole already done 4 Shinkel on that Caitlyn, so is sitting on quite a bit of gold here, about 1,700. So we'll be able to back and buy both bits of the Infinity Edge. Pretty close to completing it. No reason to back, so may as well just sit here in lane until the Infinity Edge is actually just able to be fully bought out. That's one thing about the Cole too, is you get the sellback price as well. So you get 1 extra gold per CS, you get the 350 when it's done, and then you sell it and get the sellback price too.
Yeah, 180 extra on top. So always happy to take that as it is. And we'll continue to see if that's going to be worth. Again, this bot lane has been fairly quiet. Again, no real big summoners burned. And we'll have to wait until, the first big Ash Arrow comes out or the first big ultimates come out. Both these ADCs kind of in a stalemate, except for the one plate going over. But with how the lanes are, I mean, which side benefits from extending this laning phase that long?
Well, if you sit there in the war of attrition, the Caitlyn Lulu's eventually just going to shove you out, especially just due to the fact that you have that CS lead already, and you have that just the raw AD advantage of BF Sword versus the Bilgewater Cutlass. It's kind of the classic thing where Vayne's, when they rush Bork into a Caitlyn lane, it's like, yeah, you both back with the same gold, but Caitlyn's still just that little bit stronger when you're just sitting on Cutlass versus BF. And so they're happy to just sit here and just whittle down the tower, and then once that tower is gone, rotate the Caitlyn around, get the outer ring down, and look for more macro and objective plays from there.
Yeah, Infernal Drake had gone over to the side of Ignitus. Esports' second dragon is the Ocean Dragon, so we will either have a Mountain or Wind Soul coming out for us in this game number 1.
And Winslow would be really spicy considering the Wombo that's in this game, as well as the Ash Arrows, the Chrono Shift, the Primordial Burst. Lots of fun ultimates to see coming out. Is Bull Baron Jax having some fun, but Jax just will get stronger. So him not dying and just being down this amount of CS isn't the worst thing in the world for Shinaman at this point in the game, actually.
Yeah, that's actually going to be a jump in now as a stun comes out as well. That's going to be the Stormbringer jumping in, and Shinaman may have taken a trade that he didn't want. It's going to be the stun going out as well. Aethys gets stunned into the wall. That might be the kill. In goes the Primordial Burst. That is the kill. Arrow might land.
Whoa,
no, just barely swoops by, and that's going to be the charge going right back in. In goes the ult as the meta keeps itself alive, but a 1-for-1 trade signals the end of the mid lane battle.
Yeah, and that was a great Umbral Trespass as the Hecarim ultimate came out just to dodge on out, because that blew up Hamlet. And more orbs for Kane, so he should be pretty close to transforming here, because the longer the game goes without you being transformed, the more orbs you get for each interaction, just as a little mechanic to help out Kane players.
Okay. Quality of life is always nice in a time where it used to take way longer for him to get anything. So it's nice to see that potential coming dragon still being danced a little bit. And again, because this is an Ocean Dragon, the teams are not really willing to put a lot of resources towards it, right? Yes, it's nice, but again, this is not third Drake counters. This isn't the point where it's really important that you have to counter it. So giving this one up is somewhat okay.
Yeah, definitely. And, as the team that has some scaling on it with the Vhagar, the Kane scales up a little bit. It's the traditional play, just to, not really contest the first couple of dragons. But after the first 2 is when you start going, okay, I think we need to contest this third one. Or if it's at Soul Point, you definitely need to contest. Thankfully, for the side of the Goth Boy Clique, it's not Ocean Soul, because that is still just the craziest soul out there. Second is Infernal, which will not be in this game either, as we discussed earlier. So they actually have the 2 most benign souls overall for if they end up having to give it up. Air Soul's nice for the movement speed, but I think the ultimate CDR on the actual Drakes themselves is worth more than the actual soul.
Yeah, it's one of those rare occasions that you actually want to be down a crap ton of dragons because, I mean, another 40% reduction on your ult is always so nice. So do you see Pina getting caught out again?
Oh,
And this is just the baby cage turning it into just a crapshoot right now. Hamlet having so much fun just dropping people like flies.
yeah, and this is early game Vagar with just GLP and a Fiendish Codex. You know, the more and more stacks he gets, the stronger he will be. Hecarim doesn't have any MR now, went Ninja Tabby first because felt like, you know, he's going to be the one fighting the Ashe and the Kayn and the Volbear diving the towers, needed that extra armor. So Vagar, he's kind of made a paper to Vagar right now.
Yes, he is. And again, the Hextech GLP with a Glacial Augment is so much fun for Vagars. They love to just run around, spam that ability. And, you know, there it is already. Catching Aethys out on the side. Poor guy is just going to get bullied now. And this is what I was worried about, you know. Orianna not really having a hard power to completely do as we see the jump in coming in on Shinaman once again. That's the flash forward, that's the knockup, and the disable with the Stormbringer. Shinaman has no safety to run to. That's the kill that you want. Yoshishi coming up with the kill.
Yeah, and that's what I expected to happen. It's a little later than I wanted it to happen as diving on in.
Yeah, that's going to be Hamlet getting away from the shockwave and throwing back a little bit of poke himself. But again, burning the summoners is very nice. Bottom lane, though, big push coming out of Shen Kao and Wizard of Diablo, so they get the first tower of the game. Expect them to rotate top, start applying that pressure elsewhere.
Yep, and with the Infinity Edge already completed, a couple of daggers backing with 1900 gold should put her very far up to complete, yep, Berserker Greaves and a Zeal completed. So this Caitlyn is actually accelerated pretty well. You know, we talk about the famous power trough that Caitlyn has in the mid game, but when you're this far ahead, the trough isn't that deep. So she's not in the worst state of affairs as Kayn has transformed into Rost already. So a 17-minute transformation is pretty all right, all things considered. And now he's got all his crazy utility, the percent health damage, and the knock-up on his W. So Kayn's feeling pretty good.
Yep, always nice to have. So we'll see what they can do with it. Again, the big question comes about, right? The big question comes about, it's 3-3 right now. Gold is in favor of Ignitus Esports, but the Vagar is starting to slowly get stacked up. Not only that, the bottom lane finally broken out. Where do you apply that pressure besides just this Rift Herald?
Yeah, probably just going to get the Rift Herald, look to take it top lane, but they have to respect Kayn and Vagar's CC.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice stun and lockdown. Peanut gets a wall of growth, but he's still going to go down. But here comes Shinaman. Wants to try to fight this, but this is a 5-on-4. I don't know if they want to take this. Caitlyn Trap is popped. Good damage coming out of Shen Kao, but the Rift Herald is still up. Half of its concentration left. If it's get reset, it's not going to be fun. Smite comes down, and the meta is able to pick it up, but they are not done yet. Vagar Cage does go down. Shen Kao gets knocked up, rooted, and killed. Shutdown going in favor of Hamlet as he is so happy. Shockwave lands on 3, but the Chrono Break is there. He's happy to stay alive now, and he's going to go in with the Stormbringer. No cares in the world. Goth boy Clique popping off here. Shinaman, though, wanting a little piece of the action, can't get any, and would you know it, 2, actually I think that was a total of 3 in 3, 4, 1, I believe, in favor of the side of Goth boy Clique.
Yeah, and that's just the power of Vagar and Red Form Kayn at these neutral objectives. There's just so much CC to look out for, and that's not even counting the potential double bombs and ash arrows. It's not traditional engage, but when you are at a neutral objective and Gothboy Clique doesn't have to be the ones to force the enemy team to show up because they're already at the objective, it makes things really tricky for the side of Ignitus to fight around these neutral objectives. And up comes this next dragon, so we're going to have another fight.
Yeah, these teams really do want to keep trading. And again, both these sides have kind of something to prove. If they get this third dragon, that will put Ignitus Esports on the map. This will force some fights. Arrow goes out, lands on the Peanut, but he gets a nice little cleanse out. But that's going to be the take by Hecarim in the fight. Onslaught of Shadows hits the backline and actually fears Ashe into them. Kill going over to the side of Ignitus Esports. Multiple XXGLP stuns coming out, but that's still going to be the trade. W does not take the kill. Hamlet not having enough damage just yet. But crucially, 1-0 in favor of Ignitus Esports. They also get the third Drake. Big win for them.
Yep, Soul Point and a big clutch pickup of the Mikhail's Crucible for the first item from Wizard of Diablo, recognizing, hey, there's going to be Vagar cages. There's going to be Volibears running at us. There's going to be Ash arrows. I should probably be able to cleanse someone before they can buy a QSS. And that came in clutch for Hecarim that he would have probably gotten zeroed out by Hamlet there while he was stunned on up. But that Mikhail's just pretty much won that fight, allowing him to fear Ash into 4 members. And that was all she wrote for that fight once Ash got feared.
Yeah, big win for them. And we'll have to see again how these fights ensue and who really starts it, because it seems whoever is, pushing and pulling a little bit seems to be getting the better of these trades. The Ash Arrow was a great start to the fight, but no real follow-up damage could occur. So I can't wait to see what happens whenever these teams have all of their mechanics on point. Have all
Oh
the
no,
there.
the Zillion speed
does
up.
that flash, able to get away. Very, very safe. But again, crucial summoner spell down. And I mean, Aethys didn't choose to go with a QSS or anything and actually opted for Sword Shoes instead of the Merc Treads. So he's very much fair game.
Yeah, just going for the big time magic penetration build. Has the Seraphs done, has Morellonomicon completed as well. So full on base magic pen here for this Orianna. And it's kind of scary when Zillion can speed up a Vagar whose main weakness is just straight up mobility to run on up and, let you put the baby cage on around. And now he gets to do that for 5 minutes without any retaliation because you're just going to be stuck. You just have to sit there and fight him. Or buy a stopwatch or a Zanya's and just pray that someone comes and helps you by the time that the cage comes down.
Yeah, absolutely. As we do get into a pause again, working through some technical difficulties, making sure everyone is set for this match. Again, game number 1 being the big, I guess, emotional control here. Whoever wins game number 1 really takes that flow of momentum into the next few games. And so far, gold fairly even, but 3 dragons to 0. I mean, do you think, as we take a look at this game, 21 and a half minutes in, do you think Goth Boy Clique are worried about this setup, or do you think that, they're feeling comfortable, they're in their element, and they're going to start turning it around in terms of the global objective?
They're definitely a little bit worried because one Smite Steal, one miss click is all it takes for the enemy team to get the soul. Once again, Air Soul isn't the biggest deal in the world. It would still be nice to have it, especially just getting the 3 Drakes and get the extra 30% ult CDR, or the 40% if they would end up getting the soul. But once again, their team comp thrives around these neutral objectives. They have so much zone control that they want to be the team there to fight around these objectives. They were just that little bit late to that 3rd Drake, and that allowed the side of Ignitus to set up around it and be in a good position to fight around it. So if they're able to be the ones proactively around these neutral objectives, they should have an easier time using the Event Horizon, using the Cane Knockup and the Ash Arrow to force Ignitus to reconsider these neutral objectives.
Yep. Gonna be fun to see. Again, we are back into the game now, and looks like mid lane is gonna receive some love from both sides, as no global objectives just yet. No towers really taken on the side and of Goth Boy Clique. And so they are going to try and break that mid lane. If the Red Herald hits, that should be the first tower down for them. So they do open up the mid lane at least a little bit. Looks like they're trying to push for a secondary charge as well.
Yeah, and that charge should go off. Not
Ooh.
just the base damage, considering how low health it was. And that Event Horizon almost catching some people out, but that's just the power of Vagar, is he's actually really good at sieging just because of how strong the Event Horizon is. You just walk up to a tower, place down the Event Horizon, throw down your abilities, and, the enemy team has to respect you. Otherwise, they get one shot.
Yeah, it's also what you really don't want to happen. It's just like, do I really want to deal with that? As we do see that mid lane, again, taken to half. But again, the outer lanes are completely in favor of the side of Ignitus Esports. Again, top tower is not really hurting, but bottom lane has been open, so that does mean dragon control down there, and dragon in a minute 30. So Hamlet says, okay, I'll go farm top real quick and try and keep on matching Aethys.
Yeah, we do have a minute 20 for the next Drake here, and looking for some crucial item completions. We do have the full rapid fire cannon on Shincal compared to just a Zeal of Knight of the Zed. Would have loved to have had Runon's Hurricane completed by now, or Phantom Dancer if feels a little unsafe and wants that extra shield instead. Vagar is getting close to Zonya's being completed. Just, only has 1,100 gold in the bank right now, so not quite enough to finish that one off. Oh, there it is, actually. So going to be done there. So that's actually really big, because if Hecarim's trying to dive in, the Zonyas will allow Hamlet to stay alive. So that's a big item to be done right before a fight, even though he had the stopwatch before. Now has that extra CDR built into the Zonyas as well. Hunting Guys is built up for Aethys, so has the stacking potential, just not the burn that the Leandries would give. So this fight should be pretty good here coming up in 20 seconds.
Yeah, and as we hit the 24.5-minute mark now, that is going to be the fight breaking out as well. They say they want to fight. Wild Growth knocking up 2, but that's going to be the jump out. Peanut stunned in the backline. That's going to be the jump forward. Shockwave keeps the rest of the backline alive, and Shinaman is in the backline trying to fight it off as best he can. Remember, he is very, very weak. He has to flash away, but the flash follow from Yoshishi is there. That's going to be the kill on the backside, so 2 for 1 in favor of Goth Boy Clique as they take that fight and they'll take that win.
Yeah, and they should be able to get the Drake as well. Hecarim went in just a bit too early. Aethys wasn't available to follow up with the Shockwave right off the bat there. That could have made things a bit easier for the side of Ignitus if Aethys was able to get that. Because the fight got spread out. The meta chased the entire backline of Ignitus all the way back, almost to their tier 2 mid tower, while Shinaman got taken down. Chrono Shift was used onto Knight of the Zed when Jax jumped onto them, but Jax with just Blade of the Rune King wasn't quite able, but they're turning on to Baron is the side of Ignitus.
Yeah, a 25-minute and 38-second Baron attempt. Even though that's only about 5 or 6 minutes from when Baron spawned, it still hits like a truck, right? Like, I don't know if you really want to do that when you don't have Peanut rightly available, so they're gonna stall out and allow the wards to be cleared.
Yeah, and Caitlyn did pick up a Hex Drinker as well, so recognizing the power that Vagar brings and that Zillion can bring as well. Just really making sure that Shinkal has everything they need to survive as Wizard of Diablo gets smacked a little bit by the scythe there.
That's just a rude thing to do. It's just so rude. It's a support, man. You don't mess with supports. Why you gotta do that?
Stop all backs at all costs.
Yeah, pretty much as Shinaman takes about half his health from Yoshishi just popping out of a bush there. So fortunately, Shinaman has to walk away and gonna have to try and hold this tower on his own. Now, again, Aethys is right beside, so maybe that'll help out a bit, but again, itemization wise, everyone is starting to hit their breakpoints. And I mean, there hasn't really been a completely decisive fight that breaks this game open, it feels.
Yeah, both these teams are great at disengaging when they recognize someone is dead, someone will die. They just back on off and just try to focus on whatever else they can. We saw that in that last fight where Kane started chasing the back line, and Jax did everything he could to try to assassinate the Ashe, but they just split the fight up and, stop the bleeding for the most part. Because if they hard committed to the fight afterward, one or the other of the teams would have had a devastating loss. So both these teams, they're here in the playoffs. We know that these teams are not just here because they're lucky. They're here because they have shown that they are good. They both went 6-1 in the regular season. They know what they're up against.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting and very telling on how this game swings. Again, yes, the kill score is in favor of Goth Boy Clique, but the gold and global objective pressure is right now in favor of Ignitus Esports. So you can definitely see where their priorities lie, right? They're looking to try and accrue their leads in separate ways. So I definitely have to be impressed at how well they're sticking to their own win conditions that they set for themselves.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens when you pick someone like the Caitlyn, is that will be your win con in terms of getting your early lead is on the towers and the neutral objectives, all the zone control. Now, you're looking, Jax is behind and probably will be, technically behind until everyone hits 6 items if the game goes that long. But once he gets Trinity Force completed, we'll have a bit more power and a little bit more agency to try to do things in the side lane here. But until that point, he just has to be really respectful here. And you can see that he can't just walk up to Volvic. He just has to sit there, get whatever CS he can, and then let Volibear shove it on out. When his passive turns on, the wave will eventually get pushed to him. And, being down 50 CS at this point, that's what you need to do in this Volibear into Jax is just get ahead early and try to keep that lead for as long as you can.
Yeah, I mean, not only 50 CS, he's also down in terms of kills, 3-0 for the Volibear and 0-2 for the Jax. So I don't want to make the equation that it's a 5-kill difference, but
it's pretty close. 1,700 gold. Yeah,
that's okay. Fair enough.
So yeah, it's in theory a 5-kill difference.
Oh, I'm gonna get so hammered in the Twitch chat for that one. Anyways, again, moving on. We are having the dragon spawn in 40 seconds here. That'll be 4th dragon contention coming out for Ignitus Esports as we hit 29-40 seconds. That is going to be a massive chance for the game to break wide open. Again, multiple move speed buffs, a potential 20% total on the ultimate cooldown CDRs. As we see a fight coming out of Yoshishi and Shinomen, as we do see the headshot coming out, ace in the whole landing. But that is going to be the rest of the team comes over with a blast cone. What do you know? The rest of the team says hello, and a massive hold comes out. Goth boy Clique running to town with this fight. 8th is next on the chopping block. Massive win, 3-0 for the side of Goth boy Clique. They come ready to party, and the blast cone sets it off.
Yeah, and we'll get the dragon, so delaying soul point yet again, and now they have 20% ultimate CDR bonus, so everything's going their way now around these neutral objectives, and at this point, it's kind of just team comp diff. You saw how strong that event horizon was in catching everyone out, and you see how much disruption Kane brings to these fights as well. And it makes it really hard to where if Aethys doesn't land a perfect shockwave, if Hecarim does not land a perfect onslaught of shadows, it's so hard for the side of Ignitus to find angles in these fights, especially when someone gets caught out.
Yep, especially when someone gets caught out. Peanut looking for that fight in, not able to make it in, so that will be the Baron going over to the Goth as the fight continues to ensue. Nice event horizon catching 2.
Oh my word!
That's a lot of damage following up. Volibear claiming those 2 kills for himself, and we were wondering when the big fight was going to occur. This is it. 13-5 all of a sudden with 2 dragons to their name. They might even catch some more. Unstoppable goes Peanut as he keeps himself safe.
Yeah, and this is completely Gothboy Clique's game to lose here. Everything is under their control, and now Veigar has the Rabadons completed as well, is just sitting there chilling with over 1,000 AP. So that is a very strong Veigar. And when the champion's kit itself just kind of makes it really good at these neutral objectives, you add 1,000 AP onto that, and it's a bad time. And you saw it with that just double stun into the W coming down and taking both, I believe it was Wizard and Shincal that were stuck there down to about a quarter HP. That's just one Veigar ability while you're being held down with his stun. So things are definitely looking rough for Ignitus here.
Yeah, I mean, you may not feel it, but again, you have to respect that coming out, and I feel there wasn't a whole lot of respect. I feel if you ever see a Veigar start to get ahead, get those Merc Treads, get that MR in the mid lane build, stop being greedy, right? The Mikhails is not going to save you if that's all you have. Flash out from Nahor as the rest of the group starts to pile in. Nice double stun, though, as Shindaman is able to get a few holds as the flash comes out as well. Hamlet trying to stay alive. That's going to be the Chrono Shift dropped on him. He might not fall, though. Stormbringer shaking the fight up. Nice double knockup as the fight breaks out. That's going to be 2 in favor of Goth boy Clique. They're happy to take that fight once again. That was actually started on the side of Ignitus Esports. And another stun, and Root comes out, and he walks into it. No, that is so unfortunate. Wizard of Diablo is starting to take some damage. Shincal actually takes a trade on ADC action. Teleport coming out by Yoshishi. They want to continue this fight. They want to continue to pressure this tower with the Baron. So a 2-for-1 means multiple towers lost on the bottom side of the map for Ignitus Esports.
Yeah, and it didn't matter too much that Ashe died because, Veigar does probably more damage to towers than ADCs do. At least on a per auto basis, 100%. But in terms of DPS, it's pretty close. So, yeah, they just open up the base a little bit. Didn't get the inhibitor, but, that fight just proves that it's so hard for Ignitus to really find their way in to do much anything, because as ahead as Shincal was in the early game, that was actually his first kill of the game.
Yeah, that's such a it's such a weird thought to say, right? First kill of the game for an ADC of all things. He's 1-2 and 2, and it feels like that passivity from the early stages of the game trickled into the latter stages, right? He hasn't been allowed to really play the game. He hasn't been allowed to try anything, and so he's just really just unfortunately behind. Whereas a Caitlyn, you want to be the aggressor.
Yeah, and having to invest into the full-on Maw of Malmortius here, just trying to buy as much MR as possible, as Shinaman is caught out yet again.
Yep, once again, I mean, this is the 5th time he's had it happen to him, unfortunately, so he is very used to it right now. 0-5, and about 50
Oh, double knockup.
down. Yep, double knockup is going to land, and that's going to hold steady as they are able to keep themselves alive. But again, 16-6, big advantage coming out for Goth Boy Clique. I mean, the only question is, can they close it out?
Yeah, and they may play the long con, get the air soul for themselves. There are 2 Drakes away. We'll see. I think one more devastating fight though from the side of Goth Boy Clique, and they should be able to end the game off of it, as long as it's an actual devastating fight, not a long drawn out one like that one where they end up essentially going like, what did they go, like 3 for 3 or something along those lines, or pretty close to it. So yep, they just need to be in the correct spot at the correct time, and they should be able to win this game no problem.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still slow accrual of these 3 and potentially 4th Drake. I mean, it's been painful, right? Going down, having to lose 3 dragons, it definitely felt bad, but I mean, they're making up for it in this mid to late game. They're very happy to continue this fight. Now 30% CDR on all the ultimates, so that means the Chrono Shift is up higher. That's also going to be the Ash Arrow going to be thrown out as well. That's going to be the double bomb, but nice ultimate to keep himself alive and unstunned. So losing key ultimates, though, that is going to be Peanut now not really having a way to engage these fights.
Yeah, and look at the side of the Goth Boy Clique. 3 Death Dances completed. So even if Avis lands an amazing shockwave, it's not going to be that crazy one-shot that we all hope it will be, because of just how Death Dance works. It's going to take some time. And if you buy the side of Goth Boy Clique time, another Event Horizon is going to be coming out or being really close to coming off a cooldown. So it's just so hard for Ignitus to find into these fights, and there's a 3-man shockwave.
Yeah, 3-man shockwave, but nothing to really follow up. I see the jump in, immediate kill onto the Hecarim as he falls, a double kill coming out for Hamlet, and the Yordle is flying right now. He's happy to keep chasing. Crystallized Arrow is going to land and secure that one's 3 for 1 inside of the base of Ignitus Esports. They were holding so well in the early stages. They were doing so well to contain this monstrosity, but the cage has been ripped open. Yoshishi and Hamlet are definitely running this show.
Yeah, and there's just so much zone control that comes out of those 2 champions. You don't want to stand in Volibear's E, because that Thunder does % health magic damage, so that hurts. No, even if it's just a 1-point wonder skill. He has his stun on his Q that he runs at you and just beats you up, and then Veigar, just as a champion, is nothing but zone control.
Yep, and another fight to try and hold Aethys on that losing side. Gonna get dropped where he stands in meta, just saying, I want some support's life. Gonna go into the Umbral Trespass, gonna get some damage down, and the knockup is enough to finish it, as Shinaman is gonna get cut down again. 9, 2, and 8 for the little Yordle in purple. He's gonna get possibly his 10th here. No, Yoshishi says, I want some action too. He's 8-0, and they're just playing with their food now. Shincal with the cleanse, not going to do much inside of the base. One more might do it. Oh, he goes golden. He's going to survive for a little bit longer.
He has a GA.
And he actually has a GA. He had enough. He could buy a GA. He said, I'm playing around. I'm happy.
Oh, man.
And that's going to be game number 1 in the books for Goth Boy Clique to start off this playoff series.
Yeah, and just looking at the game, they just got outscaled. The Jax didn't come through. An 0-7-0 performance from Jax. Definitely a rough time. But it's exactly what Goth Boy Clique needed to do. Get that Volibear ahead to the point where Jax couldn't do anything, and well more than succeeded at that. That's a 6,000 gold differential just in the top lane itself. Kayn got transformed relatively early, and even though First Blood went the way of Ignitus and bottom lane went in their favor, once the neutral objectives got to the point where Gothboy Clique could contest them, the team comp difference came in big time clutch. You know, you got to dance around the event horizon, you got to dance around Volibear and Kane, and you got to dodge Ash arrows and dodge bombs. There was just too much stuff for Ignitus to dodge out, and they couldn't get it done in game one.
Yeah, and looking towards that game number 2, I mean, it looked like the composition was solid, right? It looked like it was there, but if Gothboy Click are bringing these types of champions to the table, what do you think needs to change for Ignitus Esports here, and what do you think they need to focus on if they want to bring game number 2 under their control?
I mean, personally, I would ban Vhagar since Hamlet has shown a propensity to play it, especially if Aethys is not going to be able to get Victor, because Victor is another champion that can do crazy good zone control and can kind of counteract zone control. So playing into Vhagar Cage is something that is just really hard to do. And if you draft kind of a binary team comp where your only option is to go all in, Vhagar is just the perfect thing to play into it. So if Ignitus is trying to play a similar team comp in game number 2, that is definitely something that I would look out for. Potentially drafting something that is a little stronger early game if they're going to leave Volibear up, something that can contest Volibear a little bit early on in the lane and doesn't have to rely on the Volibear to not do anything, is probably a good idea as well. Because early on, Peanut and Aethys and Shincal were doing fantastic. Wizard down there as well. It just, they couldn't transfer their early advantages into the mid game.
All right, well, we'll have to see if they're able to pull it off, or if Gothboy Click will show their colors and be able to make it into round 2 of the playoffs here. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the second game between these two awesome teams.
Find your way into this wonderland. Cross the maze, the dark, the innocent. Chase the faith, the thrill, the heaven sent. I got you wild upside down. The labyrinth will guide you far away to a place where senses will decay. You're born
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this fantastic series between Goth Boy, Clique, and Ignitus Esports. Goth Boy, Clique, after a very slow start to this game, I think we were waiting about 17 to 20 minutes for the big team fights to start. We saw them just completely dominate the latter stages of the game with that Volibear and Veigar action. So coming into game number 2, we discussed a little bit about what we want to see change, and yet we'll only have to see if the changes will be implemented.
Yeah, one thing, like I said, I'm looking for is the potential for a Veigar ban, at least probably more in the second phase of bans, once the team comp sort of takes shape. If it looks like they're going to play another run at you comp, Veigar is probably just about the best mid laner to pick in terms of comp versus comp. But Ignite is going to ban out the Volibear this time on blue side, so we'll see what they're trying to put priority on here for their blue side first pick.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to wait and see. Again, we are into the pick and ban phase, and Ignitus Esports say, all right, no Volibear. We're not dealing with that in the top side. That kind of shut our top laner down, so
Yeah, just
rightly
a little bit.
so. And the Veigar.
Okay,
okay,
so
so
saying you got to do something
we're
else.
done. Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame them. I hate playing against Veigar too. I don't know very many people that really enjoy playing against Veigar because it doesn't matter if he's 0-10 or 10-0. Event Horizon still does the same thing. So
Yeah, that is the thought here. But again, Cassiopeia, Graves, and Ezreal banned away on the table. Lissandra was the other one for Ignitus Esports. So we'll see if that changes things up. And they immediately go for the Aphelios. So taking that champion away from the side of Goth Boy Clique, maybe giving Shin Kao something a little bit higher DPS in the mid to late game. And I mean, if it's ain't broke, don't fix it. None of this against the Ashe. And we were wondering about this potentially getting Hamlet on that Nunu and Willump. My gosh, we are in for either a really good treat or just utter gambling is what we're seeing here.
So there are things that you can play mid lane into the mid lane Nunu, if this is indeed mid lane Nunu. There are some things that you can play into it that are actually very good and stop the Nunu from doing what they're trying to do here. Vladimir is one thing, Galio is another, that are just both really good at just tanking the snowball, because the whole point of AP Nunu is to just kind of be like Aurelion Sol used to be, where you just shove waves endlessly and roam. So if you have someone that can just sit there, tank up the snowball, stop Nunu from clearing the wave instantaneously, you really put a damper down onto that strategy. So we'll see if that, for one, if that is AP Nunu mid, and for two, what Ignitus tries to play into it.
Yep, that is the thought, as we do see the set J4 Soraka coming out, and now they are going to be looking to ban out. It definitely looks like that's a new and Willump mid, just specifically because of the Twisted Fate ban, something that can't chase after the Nunu as easily.
Yeah, and with Ignitus running a pretty more standard team comp, Aphelios set Jarvan is still pretty just standard League of Legends nowadays. You just have some engage, you have some disruption, you have the 200 years down in the bottom lane to be doing the DPS later on, and banning out the Wukong and the Rumble is just banning some great teamfight champions just to kind of slow that roll. But Orianna being locked in means that this Nunu is going either potentially top or jungle, maybe even support if that Soraka gets thrown into top lane.
Oh, that would be. I don't. I
I mean,
like that.
old Nunu support was annoying because the snowball was crazy. New Nunu support might be considered inting.
Oh man, that would be a thought. But again, I think that's a new jungle against the J4, so we'll have to see how that one plays out. An immediate Corki Rise. Wow, very quick lock-ins here for Ignitus Esports.
Yeah, so unless they say something in the chat, Corki is Rise, so they're still picking here for their last pick, because Pro Draft is very fun. Rise is Malphite. Okay, so lots of engage still. So Rise, Malphite, that is not Corki. And we'll see what Gothboy Clique decides to lock in again, because I'm not entirely sure that Kayn is actually Kayn.
Yeah, so we'll see what they say. But again, the Rise Malphite to round out the competition here. So that combined with the J4 set and Aphelios, this just looks like a massive team fight composition, right? Just press R, take out the back line, and that to me just signals we don't feel confident in taking some of the higher skilled, more flexible champions.
Yeah, I mean, you have Set, you have Malphite, and you have Jarvan. All three are fantastic at engaging. You have Aphelios and Corki, who respectively probably deal the most DPS in their role, especially now with Muramana Corki being a thing. That is some serious DPS that can be put out. Or not Corki, Rise, rather. You know, I've messed myself up. It's not Corki, it's Rise. And the point still stands though. Rise is probably the second best DPS mid laner in the game, at least later on. He has a tier item too. Doesn't build Muramana anymore. Those days have long since passed. But lots of ways for a fight to start. You have Jarvan engage, you have Malphite engage, Set can flash in, Set can take Hex Flash and flash in from creative angles with Nimbus Cloak, lots of speed ups. Whereas the side of Goth Boy Clique here, I'm not sure exactly what their last pick is, if that's actually Kane or not. I haven't seen anything in the chat that says otherwise.
We'll see when we get into draft. Again, this is the top lane that they're saying that they want to go ahead and wait into the draft. So again, a little bit of a fumble in the pro draft. This is unfortunately what we see and what we sometimes don't like, obviously. So we'll see what happens in this draft phase here. But again, the compositions are technically down on the ground. So I want to get into thoughts here. We saw the Orianna in game number 1 going in favor of Ignitus Esports in terms of where it went, but it didn't have that great of a showing. So now looking at it on the other side, potentially, it's definitely going against the Rise. What do you think of that matchup in the mid lane? Because last time it was the Veigar, and so is this going to be good, or is this going to be, you think going to be a little bit rough?
Well, the Rise will need time to scale up no matter what ends up going down in the lane, either way. So the threat of Nunu ganks is pretty annoying, though, as Rise, because even if you get the Rune Prison off, the Snowball will still travel once he's rooted and still hit you, still do all the damage. The only difference is now Nunu has to run up to you a little bit, and during all that time, Orianna can still throw her everything down. So looks like it will be Mordekaiser that will be locked in for the counter pick to Malphite, which definitely makes a lot of sense. As long as it's not like what Viper did to Double Lift. I forget if that was earlier this year or at the end of last year, but going in when Aphelios has red gun and white gun and getting absolutely obliterated in the Death Realm, that's a bad time. But otherwise, Mordekaiser's really good into that team comp where he can isolate either one of the engages if you can catch Malphite before he actually uses his ultimate, or to take out a damage dealer can really change the way the fight works. But in terms of the mid lane matchup, both of these guys are trying to do the same thing, especially if Hamlet also builds the Seraph style Orianna, where they both just kind of want to scale up a little bit, get that Archangels done, get it transformed into Seraphs for the boost of AP that gives out.
Yeah, gonna be very interesting to see. Now, looking towards that bottom lane, right? We have it locked in. It's the Ashe and Soraka versus the Aphelios set. We've seen Aphelios do quite a bit, but last time, both lanes were fairly quiet. Didn't do a whole lot, just slowly press their advantages. In Shin Cal and Wizard of Diablo, they were technically winning. The bottom lane, they got a lot of the tower plates and everything. The question is do you think this is enough for Shen Cal and Wizard of Diablo to be able to push themselves to be a threat on the Rift?
I definitely think it will be, especially if the laning phase goes as well for them this time around as it did last time around. Obviously, Soraka, always something you got to keep an eye on. The amount of healing that comes out of champion is insane at times. But Set is a really good champion at getting in and making fights happen and forcing things to happen that otherwise would not be able to. So there are ways for Set to get in on the Soraka, even in laning phase with flashing, with the face breaker and the haymaker, just really causing a lot of problems. Especially if you can stun both Knight of the Zed and Nahor at the same time and really just pump out a bunch of damage and force them to be on the back foot. Set can almost 1v2 in that scenario where he gets a good face breaker off. And if the Aphelios is able to follow up, great. You might be able to force him out of lane. If not, he's just sitting back, farming, doing his scaling thing, getting to be that 200 years that we all know and love.
200 years, ladies and gentlemen. That's all what we're hoping for. But as we do take down into the Spectre delay, one last question to you, Guster. What are we taking a look at here? Are we taking a look at a pretty balanced team compositions overall? Or, I mean, do you think Goth Boy Clique are going to be able to crush this game as well, considering how well they played that late game in game number 1?
I definitely think that Ignitus has ways to make this game better than last game. They have tons and tons of engage this time around, so they can pick fights on their terms. So if there's a snowball that goes awry from the Nunu, you can just Jarvan EQ on in and stop it and try to pick off the Nunu. If Hamlet walks on up a little bit too far, Malphite Jarvan set exists. There's lots of ways to catch people out that go a little too crazy. But the side of Goth Boy Clique, they have the Shockwave, they have Mordekaiser. We did see Knight of the Zed putting out a lot of damage on Ashe even in the early game, so we know that is there, and Soraka's Soraka. So we'll see if the Soraka diff is out in this game or not.
Absolutely. Again, the heal machine is out on the Rift, but we will have to see if that will be able to help them into a 2-0 situation, or if Ignitus Esports will be able to bring it back in game number 2 and force it to a game number 3. But before we do go to a quick commercial break, I do want to talk about one of our fantastic sponsors, Kono. If you are looking to take your game to the next level, it all starts with your peripherals. From keyboards to keycaps, mice, and more, our friends at Kono have got you covered. Kono works with some of the world's best designers, inventors, and makers to bring you some of the best gaming peripherals around. They've been huge supporters of us here at Upsurge and have made generous contributions to our prize pools. So if you're looking to find new gear at the Upsurge store, make sure to use the discount code UpsurgeGG for 7% off your first order. For more information, head over to kono.store to check out all they have to offer. Now with that, we will go to a very short commercial break, but when we come back, we will be on the Rift for game number 2 between these two fantastic teams. Don't go anywhere. Wait, sorry, give me 1 second. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we climb onto the Rift for game number 2 here with some somewhat interesting compositions. Press R kind of composition on the left, and on the right side, a little bit of versatility coming out with that Mordekaiser pick in the top lane.
Yeah, and Mordekaiser can completely take over a game if he gets ahead. And that seems to be Yoshishi's forte. taking over the game on the Volibear in game number 1, and Shinneman's Jax had a rough time, so you know, now he gets to play Malphite. So we'll see if he plays AP Malphite, has the rune set up to do it, taking the Comet, but tank Malphites take that too. So we'll see what he decides to do. You know, starting Dorn's Ring doesn't show anything one way or the other. Just, you know, it's nice for Malphite to have some AP and some mana regen. So we'll see what he ends up doing later on. But yeah, we got Press R on one side and we've got Counter Press R on the other side.
Counter press R is probably the most apt description I think I've heard of that. As you know, just all right, listen, we really don't want you hitting that big button that blows us up. So yeah. We do see a little bit of a dance in that jungle side as Wizard is kind of poked out and a double ward actually thrown down. Now so this actually worries me though, because I really have to point this out, and I think this is very important. That was both of the bottom lanes wards.
Yeah,
so,
I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah. That you know, those wards are gonna die. They may see Jarvan, but they know it's warded, so Jarvan can play with the timings a little bit on his gank towards that bottom side. As Ushishi and Shinneman, you don't want to fight a Mordekaiser who has his passive going, gets that conquer going. It's not a fun time.
yeah,
But we'll see
absolutely.
what Jarvan can do, because Jarvan is very good at putting out early pressure. One of the strongest level 2 gankers, or even level 3 if you add in that slow on his shield. Just able to pump out a lot of damage early games. So we'll see if the bottom lane can remain safe, because Ashtaraka is quite susceptible to ganks.
Oh, absolutely. He is, you know, it's, we wonder about some of these games, you know, how some of these players react. I mean, so far, most of the lanes have been very good, but I want to see the junglers be a lot more interactive with the lanes, right? We want to see them be able to put some pressure in the early stages and really break this game open, not at the 17-minute mark, but maybe at the 8 to 9.
Yeah, and even earlier too, you know, the champions that they are playing are capable of doing that. And you see the adaptation taken by Jarvan, knowing that that whole side is, at least where that one ward was cleared, he backed to get down to that bottom side. Backbought the second component of the jungle item, so he will be fully healthy after taking this red. Wards died. I don't actually think he was spotted. So they have an idea that he's down there on the bottom side, but they do not know exactly where he is yet. Taking the red, taking the Krugs, looking for bottom, but here comes a snowball down mid. We'll see if he's actually going for it or not. Directed camera doesn't think so, so we're not going to see it.
Yeah, I mean, when you snowball into a lane where Ryze is already backing, I mean, what more can you really say, right? It's just
Tower
kinda like,
dive. He must tower dive. That's what Nunubot says.
Yeah, a little bit of a thought, but we will see what happens. Again, boards have been dropped and the Nunu is rolling, so we'll see J4 looking like he wants to try and get a little bit of a gank off here on the bottom side. Lane gank, but in the mid lane, we do see
got
that
the
flash in a rotate as Aethys is able to use that phase rush and keep himself alive.
Yeah, and man, with the Severum, that Q just does so much early on, and you lifesteal off of it as well. You put your secondary gun passive on to the person. A lot of damage coming up, but once Soraka Q says, you know what? That trade didn't happen. So good for you, but I countered it.
I counted it 20 seconds later. Just give me a second.
Yeah, just give me a second to breathe and I'll be fine.
little bit of a, you know, you grab the tips of the arrows and just tear them off. It's like, you didn't really do anything. I'm sorry. We do see Wizard trying to jump forward, but Hamlet is too far back in that row as Meta attempted to try and counter gank, but no real reason to. So I do agree, though. I like these early attempts at getting some pressure down.
Yeah, and both these champions, the Jarvan and the Nunu, obviously able to EQ into the Jarvan and just snowball. You know, Limp Bizkit's playing keep rolling, baby, because that's all he's doing. He's rolling on into the top lane now.
Yeah, Shinaman is going to try and dance away. He is able to dodge out with a little swift hold. But that's going to be the drawback. Flash having to be burned, so very nice gank coming out, giving his laner some pressure and some time to start stacking up and get some advantages in the lane.
Yeah, and that's both solo lane flashes blown. So we'll see if meta follows up on those, because that is one thing that you do see a lot in solo queues specifically as sets going on in.
Yeah, Knight is going to try and jump away again. Flash and exhaust used, so Nahor is also going to flash. about a 1-inch flash, but enough to not get knocked up. So gonna be able to stave off, and already lots of early game pressure coming out across the board.
Yeah, but a good double Q from Nahor will just, heal him back on up. Shared with Knight of the Zed, just that negates the health cost on Soraka's heal when that Q passive is going. So, always want to try and use that when you can, because it only costs you the mana cost, does not cost you the health cost, and your whoever you're healing gets the extra little bonus regen off of it too.
Yeah, never a bad thing. Happy. All right, yeah, I'll take it. Thanks a lot. As we do see a Hextech Flash being used in the bottom lane, as they're trying to be a very nice sorcerer, but not being able to trade it. But we do see the ultimate being thrown down in that top side as the snowball comes in to help as well, and they do spot him. He has the ultimate. Not available as he's only level 5, so he's just going to get run down. He is going to get chomped up. He is going to get smashed to pieces as rock is broken by metal. First blood to Yoshishi in the top lane.
Yep, Steel type is super effective against Rock type after all, and especially when that Rock type is not level 6 yet.
Yeah, that makes a very big difference there, as we do see the dragon being started up. That is going to be a take for the Mountain Drake, so not the most important one, but still very nice to have. Do you see the snowball once again? So Meta trying to force his way into these lanes. He got one good assist in the top side, wants another one potentially in the mid. Wizard also looking like he wants to help, does not make the Hextech Flash. Unfortunately, that clipped the wall, so that's something you have to be careful about.
Yeah, and it's so much fun seeing Omni Stone on a champion like Set. You never know what rune you're going to get. Taking the Hex Flash. Oh, double shockwave.
That's going to be the double shockwave coming in, and he actually gets the root to Aethys. Not having that flash is going to get stunned up and rooted. Does get the last hit as well, and Hamlet able to flash away from the counter engage. Peanut now might get Doe, but no, takes a chunk of damage and has to get out. So an overall 1-for-0 after a fairly Fiesta-y fight.
Yeah, but we are NA. We are the land of Fiestas. It's par for the course here. But Goth Boy Clique starting off strong in game number 2. They have about 1,000 gold lead for themselves. And, they do need to try and get an early lead, because you are facing down Rise, who has had 200 years of reworks, and Aphelios 200 years himself. So, both those champions do a lot in the late game. And, a 10 CS lead for Aphelios is always a good thing. BF Sword, 2 Vamp Scepter, and they both started Cole again this game, by the way. So we'll have that extra bit of infusion of gold. It kind of feels like the Avarice Blade meta yet again.
Oh, man, those are the days, but again, we'll see what happens. Again, both sides have gotten their respective global objectives once again, because First Dragon did go to the side of Ignitus Esports. So they're still on track, right? 2 kills, not much to scoff at. And the CS differentials, definitely not as bad as what we saw before. So we'll have to see if that continues, if Ignitus Esports are able to try and channel this spells. Ooh, okay. Early flash out of Shin Kao trying to predict the arrow. So a free flash for the side of Knight and Nahor in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and that's something when you are playing a roaming support like the Set or a Bard or something like that, is when you're the ADC in that situation, you got to pay attention to what the enemy team has available. There's the Unstoppable Force just to get out of the way of the snowball.
So I was talking about it in game, in the break between games 1 and 2, and in between as we were getting on the Rift. It's just the amount of pressure that can be sustained from the side of Goth Boy Clique means that the ultimates have to be on time, because if not, you aren't ready for the fight. However, we do see a low catch out as Meta is taking a chunk of damage, but the ultimate is there. Aethys gets drawn in, and that's going to be Mordekaiser saying, hello, I want to fight. Yoshishi flashes over the wall in the realm of death. That's going to be the arrow coming down from downtown. Not going to land, but that is an easy kill. And just as I was talking about, no ultimate for Shinneman as he goes down, and an easy 3-for-0 wipe for Goth Boy Clique.
Yeah, and that was a fantastic snowball for Meta. Let it go to start charging his ultimate, which interrupted the Jarvan dash, which let him get a nearly fully channeled Absolute Zero off onto Peanut, which did quite a big chunk of damage. It did like 400 or so damage to him. When you're full tank Nuni, your ult doesn't do that much damage unless you are able to sit there and charge it for a while. So good stuff coming out from Goth Boy Clique, really advancing their lead now. 3.1k at 10 minutes is crazy, but there's Flash Suplex.
Yeah, but no one else is there to follow up. Why would you do that when no one else is there? The runaway is available. Phase Rush keeping Hamlet alive. So Wizard doing
Did proc Dark
something.
Harvest, though. Got a Dark Harvest stack.
Yeah, got that charge of the Omni Stone. I didn't get anything else except I lost my flash.
Yeah, he ignited
Oh,
too.
man.
So lots of stuff being used as the ultimate comes on out with the sniper rifle, just putting down some damage, forcing Ignited the Zed to back. But probably wanted to back enemy because it's 40 seconds before the next Drake, but actually not gonna back. Has Soraka really just sitting there trying to get as much because Shincal just completed Cole, so he would like to get it back off before this dragon if at all possible too.
Yep, gonna try his best to get it off, and he will, so that's gonna be a nice, hefty lead for himself. We'll have to see what he buys. He was sitting on the BS sword before, so he's now gonna go back complete. Okay, so he did pick up that execution. It's calling as a flash forward. Hamlet says hello. Shockwave lands, stops a little bit of the damage, but might not survive. Snowball coming in as well. Wizard is pulling
Whoa,
meta.
that did a lot of
So
damage.
that's gonna do very well to hold as Hamlet goes down. Both mid laners will trade their life in this furious dual flash forward from meta as he gets himself to safety a little bit. Yoshi, she is going to try and roam down as well. Arrow coming out. Long range might hit. Actually does land. Long range stun onto Wizard as they're going to try and hold again. Meta getting some health back from the Nahor. And that's going to be a nice little chomp to keep himself alive once again. And overall, 1 for 1, but I think that helps Hamlet and his team a little bit more. Again, Aethys is 0-3 right now in this mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, his rise is an inevitable ticking time bomb, but for this early pressure, that's exactly what you want. You know, they will get their first dragon, it looks like, unless a miracle steal happens, which is unlikely considering the numbers and the fact that there's a Nunu here, but it is League of Legends. You never know when a bug will come out and Rise Q will teleport through the everything, just like Kane W's were.
Right,
But
teleports literally through everything, and he just runs you down. Yeah, we're waiting for that moment. Yeah.
That was the rework back in, what was it, like season 5 or 6 or something, when Rise could literally 1v9 even
No,
just
that
early game.
was for a very long time, which I enjoyed. We called it Machine Gun Rise. That was probably the best time for him. You just
It was
basically
like root
base roll as
into
hard as
root into
Katarina.
root into root, and then you're just stuck there. That was a
Yeah.
fun time.
Those are the years of the face roll. That's all you can really say. And we do see a little bit of a snowball as well rolling along the rift as he's able to drift it. No, he's not able to drift enough to catch Wizard. But the bottom lane, though, Knight getting forced out, and this is what we were kind of expecting with this composition. Xin Cao getting the better of these trades and up about 10 CS, if I'm doing my math correctly. As the Red Herald is spawned in the mid lane, trying to get some tower plates before it goes down, so it is going to be an extra 2 picked up. As the air actually lands on the bottom lane, but this might be a duel that meta is not available for. Moonlight Vigil did miss, but that's going to be a teleport. Shinneman is there to try and own it out, and he actually does hit. Flash out from Knight. Ultimate coming out. That is going to be the Cataclysm, keeping him locked in, but the Absolute Zero able to do some work, and a very nice showstopper brings him into the fight. That's going to be the kills across the board. Shockwave only stopping a little as Hamlet and Knight, the 2 carries for the team, have to find their way out.
Yeah, and overall, that fight was honestly just teleport difference from the top laners. We'll see what Yoshishi can get done. Looks like probably will be able to just take that tower. Has the full Leandries completed. If not on this wave, then the next wave, we'll be able to push that one on in here. But looks like he's just going to get that down for himself. So make no mistakes about it. That was a good fight from Ignitus, definitely. But Yoshishi got a lot in return for that. Has a 30 CS lead now, is up about 1,700 gold. So, you know, just like last game, 1,700 gold lead in the top lane. And, you know, had to use the Unstoppable Force to be relevant, which, you know, kind of the whole point of picking Malphite. But, you know, Mordekaiser is just able to do more and has components of Proto Belt, or we'll see what he decides to end up building. Sold him back, going for Nashor's Tooth instead. So recognizing, hey, I'm probably going to be in the side lane a whole lot. I might as well get Nashor's Tooth, get that extra attack speed to be able to shove in waves, do damage to the towers more quickly. And whoever shows up to 1v1 in the Death Realm, you know, you got that Nashor's Tooth for that extra dueling potential too.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, what better way to encapsulate dueling than having the Infernal Soul available here? Will
Yeah.
be the soul coming out here. So each side will need to gather 12% extra with 3 Infernal Drakes before they can get the soul. So I'm very interested to see which team will apply for it. Looks like the
Oh, here
bottom
comes the
lane
lane
is
gank.
yeah, gonna be interesting. Arrow goes out,
Oh,
lands onto Shin Cal. Very nice hold as the snowball doesn't get the pull,
okay.
but Wizard Midas sacrificed his life. He is running his best game. Moonlight Vigil lands on the backline, but not enough damage. Drawing guns for Aphelios, and no one dies.
Yeah, I
That
think
could
was
have been
just
so bad.
yeah. I think the Moonlight Vigil was just to get the Gravitum out to stop their advance because that was a fantastic face breaker from Wizard of Diablo to make sure that Shincal did not get smacked with that giant snowball. But yeah, trading ult for ult, Ash Arrow for the Moonlight Vigil just to make sure that no follow up happens. But Aphelios does have Infinity Edge completed now, so is a little bit stronger than Ash, but when you're stunned, you don't get to use your Infinity Edge.
You really don't. You don't get to do anything. You get to sit there and be, pondering your next move after your death. But luckily, he does not die. But mid tower will fall, so that is going to be 2 towers to 0. As Shinneman is trying his best to try and get a little pressure on the top side. But again, that is a Malphite. He actually went, which is a little bit interesting. He went for the Adaptive Found, which I'm not sure if that's what you do want to go. I sometimes feel, the Abyssal Mask might have been a little bit better choice. Just to get a little bit extra damage on his ult, but we still have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It does reduce the damage of Mordekaiser's passive, which is where a lot of the damage fighting him will actually come from, in an actual long, drawn-out fight. So it does make some sense. I do agree that Abyssal Mask would be good as well, though, just for the extra mana and health that gives. But Shinkal's in a bit of danger here. Does have Flash. She's just going to walk away. So she decided didn't want to flash on in and tower dive and potentially get 200 yeared.
Level 11 10 year versus level 10 200 years. Yeah, we all know who's gonna win, but we will have to wait and see who gets the last life, as the Infernal Drake is up first one of the game. Both teams definitely posturing like they want it. However, keep eyes meta all the way in the back line, so not ready at the Dragon Pit just yet. Everyone is posturing. Look at the Riverside on the bottom. We'll have to wait and see who starts it off.
Yeah, and I'm looking to see what guns does Shinkel have available right now. And these 2 guns, not the greatest in terms of AoE team fighting here, but does have the chakrams available once they get stacked up. So we'll see if they try to go in, but there's the Cataclysm.
Yeah, very nice all-around fight as a shockwave does land, but it's still not enough. 2 kills going over for the side of Ignitus Esports. The Dragon was claimed by GBC, but that is all they will claim, as they've lost their top. They lost their ADC. They might lose a few more, as Nahor might try and run away. And he does get away as Hamlet walks his way out of the fight. So 2 kills going to Ignitus Esports, but the second Dragon falls away of Goth Boy Clique.
Yeah, crucially though, Hamlet is full health and pretty much full mana, so should be able to defend this mid tower too. So in the end, it's just a couple of kills traded. There's a couple of guns that would have been fantastic for that team fight for Shinkel. Just, 15, 20 seconds too late. But here's an arrow.
Oh, just a little off. And I love the attempts, though. Something that a lot of Ashes tend not to do is use that ultimate basically off a cooldown. I love that attempt. Just try and get those picks. I think trying to find those picks is a very big thing when working against a composition such as this.
Yeah, I like it better with Essence Reaver because you get more ultimates, so you don't feel as bad when one doesn't hit because you got that extra CDR. But either way, you might as well try and use that champion to its fullest. And when you anticipate a bit of a lull state where you're just going back to farming, you might as well throw it out. What's the harm?
Yeah, just I'll fire it over here this time. Not really sure. I don't really see anything in the distance, but maybe I'll hit something.
Yeah, because when you land those miracle cross map ones, you feel like an absolute god.
That just, all I can imagine is those videos of someone just doing trick shots by throwing a random direction. It's just a video clip of just randomly hitting a target. Totally believable.
There's one I saw the other day of Doublelift and Spica. They were doing, and Doublelift landed a cross map one that Spica was able to follow up on, and that's the dream right there,
That is a dream. I think we've seen Knight actually hit 2 of those so far. One of them onto Shin Cal, and one of them I believe, did land onto Wizard as well. So far we have seen some of those miracle shots come through. And amazingly, no QSS or anything. So definitely not seeing Knight as that big of a threat so far.
Yeah, not yet. Eventually, we'll probably see that once Aphelios gets that 3-item power spike. May want to spec into the QSS. They're both sitting on their coals. So they both have almost 200 gold just sitting waiting for a crucial item completion. Ash does have Blade of the Rune King, has a couple daggers towards the Zeal item. We'll see if they decide to go for Phantom Dancer yet again or get the Rune-ons just for more AoE. But, just entering a bit of a lull state, and that's just kind of the way League of Legends goes nowadays, is everything kind of happens around the neutral objectives. You fight over Dragon, you take stock over what happened, then you got 5 minutes to farm, and then or 4.5 minutes, because about 30 minutes or 30 seconds to a minute before the Dragon spawns is when you start to try and look for picks, set up your vision, get things going. So, in a bit of a lull state at the moment.
Yeah, just a little bit, but not too terrible. Looking at the gold difference, 2K in favor of Goth Boy Clique, but remember they lost 2 before, so the potential is there. The potential for a pure wombo combo that deletes everyone is huge, and I think a big thing to talk about was Shinneman actually was only able to hit one person with that ultimate in the Dragon fight, so watching him be able to land that crucial unstoppable force on the backline, multiple 3 to 4 man members, that could easily signal a team wipe if Aphelios is also able to combo it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the dream. You get the Cataclysm into the Unstoppable Force, into an Infernum Moonlight Vigil, and Rise thrown in an EQ for good measure. That's a ton of damage to come on out if everyone's grouped up.
Yep, very scary, but also a huge potential.
And there is Infernum, so he has Infernum ready for this fight as long as he doesn't use it all up.
Yeah, that's a hope. It's so hard also to hang onto the guns, I think. And so watching Xinkao, he's starting to be able to rotate those guns properly, be able to get them up just in time for the right fights.
Yeah, that's a big part of playing Aphelios, because if you just kind of use your guns all willy-nilly and don't have the correct ones for the correct times, you're kind of just not using the champion to its full potential. He does have Rune-ons completed now, though, which is a big part of Aphelios, being able to spread the secondary guns around, being able to put marks on people with Gravitum, or blowing people up with the Calibrum from long range, and the Rune-ons proccing on that as well is always a fun time.
Yep, always a fun time and always a scary time as well.
Oh, and Asher,
Wizard is going to get chopped up, able to flash away. Does have the Merc Treads to be able to keep himself alive ever so slightly, as we do see Meta dancing all the way in. They get the pull in. Aethys is drawn into the realm of death. Absolute Zero on the outside is able to claim 2 as Yoshi follows with a flash, and the fight has broken out. Moonlight Vigil lands onto a few, and that's going to be the wish used to keep the team alive. Meta grabbing that kill, and 2 kills for Yoshi. Yoshi in the back line. Sorry, not Yoshi, but that is going to be a trade back. 3 for 1 so far, and that's going to be a follow-up 2 for 4. Double kill for Knight, but Xinkao, 200 years and then some. He's cleaning it up. He might get another. No, he got Hamlet able to save it, and a triple kill. 200 years shut down by a ball and a shockwave. What a fight. 4 for 5 in favor of GBC.
In 200 years of game design experience, Orianna still comes out on top as the most well-designed champion in League of Legends. That's a lot of people's opinion. I think she's pretty well designed too. Maybe not the best, but definitely one of the best for sure. But we got teleports coming on in. Rise is going in, looking like he wants to secure some vision on this dragon, trying to see who's straggling around, try to catch someone out. But what a team fight. Triple kill versus triple kill.
Yeah, that honestly felt like it should have been a quadra. Like, that's kind of what we all have to think, because, I mean, he popped off. Now with the dragons available here, that is going to be a stop. Mordekaiser.
He does have QSS now, too, so he's not an easy target for the Death Realm anymore.
That is going to be the thought process here. You have to keep track of where everyone is going to go. Dragon going extremely low. That was a snipe attempt, but the dragon has been taken third. Dragon, as Peanut is actually drawn into the realm of death.
Look how much damage he's doing.
Get a very nice arrow, slows down the fight as well, and they might just trade. He isn't able to hit the EQ, unfortunately, threw the flag over the wall. So it pushed it out just a little bit too far, and a very nice win that does signal the Baron might be started up here for GBC.
Yeah, not only is the jungler down, but, their jungler is Nunu, who can secure it. from 1950 health to level 18. At this point, Smite does do 720, so we'll be able to secure from about 1600 health, so should be free and easy unless there's a fantastic AoE, but Shinneman's trying.
Yeah, that's going to be the showstopper straight in the back line, and Moonlight Vigil lands on everyone. The
there
damage
it
there, but the shockwave in retaliation. Cal gets blown up, and that is the kill. GBC running this as Wizard falls in the Baron pit. Double kill for the man of metal himself, and the Baron goes over to GBC with a 4-for-1 to follow.
And that was about the best chance that Ignitus had there. They landed the good Malphite ultimate into the Inferno. Moonlight Vigil just did not do enough damage to wipe everyone, and Hamlet even got out alive with sub 100 HP in the back of the Baron pit. But Baron goes down, only Nahor went down, so 4 Baron buffs up and ready, and Gothboy Clique well on their way to making this a swift 2-0. You know, you got to think that they're going to push this Baron as hard as they can, go back for Infernal Soul, and unless Ignitus can land another great wombo combo like that with a little bit more damage behind it, that might be the series.
Yeah, now you have to think, though, Peanut was not available for that. Peanut was not there to follow up with the Cataclysm. If they had all the ultimates, that would have been a game changer. But it was not to be, as we do see the follow-up round, and that's going to be Cal destroyed where he stands. Again, Hamlet showing up here on this Orianna, finding the kills. And I mean, Knight of the Zed, though, able to throw out an arrow just for show with meta and the snowball.
It would have hit 2 if he didn't get absolutely one shot.
Oh, he would have, but that's still going to be the snowball in the mid lane. Tanked up by Wizard, but he's going to be slowed and killed. No flash to save him this time. Nice double route into Aethys as well. And the arrows are flying fast. Furious Malphite ults on 3, but there's no follow-up damage, so Wish grants it all back. And this is GBC tearing through the base. This is GBC cementing themselves in the first series of playoffs as a dominating force. They're going to continue their push. They are going to run it down for the Nexus Towers as the fight continuously ensues. Peanut trying to do his best to save this game. Cal is back up. Moonlight Vigil lands, but is immediately destroyed. Solo kill by Hamlet as the Rabadon Sethcap signals this end. Big win for GBC as they claim the 2-0 victory.
Yeah, and a fantastic little bit at the end there from Meta, catching out Cal, getting that pick 2 up, enable him to get into the base, taking down Cal one more time at the end. There was Hamlet, and man, what a quick game there. The first one took a little bit longer, but this game was swift and decisive from the side of the Gothboy Clique.
Yeah, and let's go to the beginning, right? We took a look in the draft phase. We said, okay, what can occur because of what's going on, right? On that blue side, we did see the Malphite, the J4, and the Aphelios, right? Massive wombo combo potential with these set following up. But we had some concerns that, I mean, with the lane matchups, did this game go the way that you expected it to?
More or less it did. We saw Cal have a bit of a lead in the bottom lane on the Aphelios. We saw the set roaming, getting those engages off in the bottom lane to really affirm that the bottom lane actual laning phase win was there. Mid lane, the Orianna did accomplish more early as was expected, and Malphite did not have a fun time in the top lane, and that's kind of what happens when you pick something like Malphite early and they are free to pick something like Mordekaiser.
Yeah, and looking on the other side now, I mean, Ashe, twice in a row, really playing a big point, I feel. Knight able, not exactly a big playmaker, but holding that bottom lane to a very steady contention. I mean, I think he did very well. Looking forward, do you think this group is able to pull even more out of their pocket? I mean, do these guys feel like they have even more picks for themselves that they could pull out?
I definitely think so. I mean, the Goth Boy Clique just, they showed Vhagar, which, that's one thing that could be considered kind of spicy, even though we've seen it in LCS and in other leagues before. But this game, it was just really standard good play. Like, they played Orianna. Orianna is like the default character for mid lane, she's the anime protagonist of mid lane, and everyone else is kind of compared to her. So if they can pull this out with just such a bread and butter pick, I'm excited to see what else they got in store.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see because, again, they will move on to the winners semifinal round, waiting to hear of their opponents. But that might not be the last that we see of Ignitus Esports. We will get to wait and see if they will make it through the losers bracket and move on into the grand finals from there. But that is it from us here on the analyst desk in the Upsurge Minor League playoffs. So thank you once again for tuning in. My name is Orbital. I was joined here by Guster Posey. Thank you so much and have a fantastic night.